be checking out the code head. Make sure y'all go like his subscribe to his video. Again, the code head. Let's give him a little love right here. Fun ways to learn web development. Let's hop right into it.
Most people don't quit learning web development because it's too hard. They quit because it's boring in the most soul-crushing way possible. They open a 3-hour tutorial, copy code they don't understand, take notes they'll never read again, and at the end of it all, if you ask them how to create a new React project, they freeze. And the worst part is, they assume that's just how learning is supposed to feel. It's not. Web development is one of the few skills where you can see, touch, and break what you're learning in real time. And if you're not doing that, you're learning it wrong. The moment learning becomes fun is the moment you stop treating it like school and start treating it like building. Instead of telling yourself you're going to master Kubernetes and Spring Boot, you tell yourself you're going to make something exist by the end of the day, even if that thing is completely useless, especially if it's useless. A button that roasts you when you click it, a page that changes color depending on the time of day, a fake login screen that does absolutely nothing. When you build tiny things like this, your brain gets immediate feedback. You see
I don't think there's a fun way to learn web development because there's so much like I don't want to say monotonous tasks to it. Like, you know what I mean? Once you know, it's just like either if and statements or making sure your code makes sense, if you get what I mean. Like, then it's like once you're even writing the code, it's not that it's boring, it's just a test. Everything is a test to make sure that it runs efficiently and you have everything in the right div or section. Make sure that it comes out appropriately. But there's, in my opinion, there's no fun part to development at all. It's more like tedious.
cause and effect instantly. Change a line, refresh the page, something changes. That loop is addictive, and there's real science behind it. Active, project-based learning consistently beats passive consumption when it comes to retention, because your brain anchors concepts to something you created, not something you watched. Once you're building small things, the next step is to turn learning into a game by adding constraints. Unlimited freedom sounds nice, but it actually kills momentum. When you can do anything, you end up doing nothing. So you impose rules on yourself, you give yourself 1 hour, and that's it. You limit yourself to just bare HTML, CSS, and JavaScript at most. You rebuild a website layout without touching ChatGPT. Suddenly, learning stops feeling like homework and starts feeling like a challenge. Constraints force your brain to problem solve instead of mindlessly copy-pasting, and that's where understanding actually forms. This is why game designers and creative professionals obsess over constraints. I mean, look at Claire Obscure Expedition 33. That game should not have succeeded on paper, and yet it claimed almost every Game of the Year award.
Now, here's my thing about the statement of not using ChatGPT. There's like a trend right now where vibe coding is a thing, and like I don't think it makes sense to not use ChatGPT. Not saying that you shouldn't. I don't know if you're trying to compete against a robot or you're just trying to like, you know what people say, like save up for the end times when AI is not available, when you kind of have to learn how to code. I think that would be, more so the appropriate reason as to not using AI. But then, I would go on a limb and suggest that, buying a book, saving the coding books are like worth more than trying to memorize constraints. I don't know whether, having a Java book there just in case the world goes to shit and then there's no fucking AI to use. At least you have a computer and some fucking books that's gonna help you. So like that's like me saying don't use a computer, handwrite code after because typing on a keyboard is low key not making you learn. You unknowingly know what keys to press. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like even though it may be a bad example to most, those who get it. Like it doesn't change the fact that a keyboard is still gonna be a keyboard. It's gonna help me type the code. And like it doesn't change the fact that AI is gonna be AI is gonna help me like generate the code, especially at a faster pace than typing on a keyboard. So like to each his own on that statement.
This year. At some point, though, learning alone in silence starts to lose its edge, and that's where learning in public changes everything. This doesn't mean becoming an influencer or pretending you're an expert. It just means sharing proof of work, a screenshot, a short clip, a messy GitHub repo. When you know other people can see what you're building, even if it's just a handful of strangers, your brain treats learning like a commitment instead of a vague intention. Behavioral psychology calls this commitment bias. Once you've put something out there, you're far more likely to come back tomorrow and continue, because stopping now feels like breaking a streak. And the irony is, people don't care that your code is bad. They care that it exists. Now we have to talk about AI, because pretending it doesn't exist is pointless. Used the wrong way, AI turns learning into a copy-paste exercise that feels productive but teaches you nothing. Used the right way, it becomes a playground. When an AI gives you code, your job isn't to paste it and move on. Your job is to interrogate it, change variables, remove lines, ask what happens if this breaks. Ask it to rewrite the same thing 3 different ways and compare them. Learning happens in the gap between what works and what doesn't, and AI is incredibly powerful at creating that gap fast. The key is curiosity, not convenience. The moment AI replaces your thinking, you lose. The moment it accelerates your experimentation, you win. All of this only works if you stop chasing mastery and start chasing momentum. You don't need 6-hour study sessions. You don't need a perfect roadmap. You need consistency. 30 focused minutes a day compounds faster than you think, because
Yeah, I agree. I think that again, there's a trend with vibe coding until I'm a millionaire. Like it's just a trend, and I don't think that you got to be up there for 8 hours a day, because at some point, like he said about coding in private, vibe coding gets to a point where it doesn't have the same effect as it did when you first started. I mean, at least if you're not just copy and paste and you're experimenting. Um, like for me, I wouldn't say I vibe code, you know what I mean? I would say I analyze the code that I'm reading and seeing if there's anything I need to look over or something like that. For me personally, it's more of a syntax thing. Um, I go on a limb and say, yeah, I'm lazy. I understand the syntax. I just choose not to memorize it because I don't feel the need to memorize it right now. Coming from a person that read JavaScript books, pragmatic thinking, reading all the books entirely. I don't want to say it like it's not important, but problem solving is the name of the game. I solved my problem by not having to constantly memorize syntax. Um, and it allows me to explore different types of networks and coding bases and all types of technologies. For me, AI helped me understand just the inner workings of how the web works. Before AI, I was trying to grasp my head around why everything is a service that you need to pay for. With AI, it helped me experiment on things that I probably wouldn't have known if it wasn't for AI, like progressive web applications, where you don't need to go to the app store to place an app on your phone. You just can make a manifest JSON page and have it, programmed to the way of your liking to make it a real application. Now, does that mean that it's going to replace the app store entirely? Probably not, just because of how much an app store condenses your app to a device. But at the end of the day, it's an experiment I found out by trying to solve a problem again. So 30 minutes a day was not what I used, but it wasn't 8 hours a day, you know what I mean? Well, it was 8 hours a day, but that's when you're in the playground mode. Nowadays, you kind of know what problems you're looking for and trying to solve, so it wouldn't take that long. But that's just my experience with why I use AI the way I use it, and I'm able to kind of like sit back, not act like I'm the guru of tech, but like kind of understand what all these languages are coming from and how to use it to my best capabilities.
every small win lowers the friction to start again tomorrow. This is how habits actually form, not through discipline alone, but through repeated proof that showing up leads to progress. Mastery is a side effect. Momentum is the goal. And this is the part most people get wrong about fun. Fun doesn't mean easy. It doesn't mean you're never confused or frustrated. Fun means you're engaged. It means you care enough to keep going even when something doesn't work the first time. When learning web development feels like building, experimenting, and shipping tiny wins, you stop asking whether you're smart enough and start asking what you can try next. And once that switch flips, learning stops being something you force yourself to do and starts being something you genuinely want to come back to. And speaking of building things while having fun, if you want to make really fun projects in more than 20 languages, check out my partner, Code Crafters, and get
Great ad, but yeah, just to go back on what he said, I would say just learn programming by building stuff, but solving problems that you always thought about. Don't think too hard about it. Just solve a problem. Find an issue that you want to solve, even if it's small. Um, or just write down what you'd like to build and how to make it free. To me, the best way to start is to make sure the monetary value isn't as high, just because the way you work around it is learning tech and what it does and how to like not fall a victim to a system that's just trying to make us pay for it. And that just means avoiding databases that you have to pay high prices for, avoiding front ends that you have to pay high prices for, um, avoiding code tools that you got to end up paying high prices for. Even if you're going to use AI, you still got to understand the code because after you run out of your limitations, you kind of got to continue with another code base or AI base. And that's the one thing I never understood about these vibe coders. When you run out of prompts, that essentially means you're done work. Like, no, like that doesn't make sense to me, which is why, like, for me, even if I'm using AI, I'm using it to the limitations, and then I'm trying after to understand what I need wrong, and I'm going to go with the knowledge I have so far into another AI to kind of use what I learned to just continue building and breaking it. Like I'm not I'm not afraid of breaking my project again and starting over. And that's what we got to get in the habit of. Like get in the habit of breaking it because once you break it, you kind of have to fix it. And if you reach the point where I just said where you're moving over to another AI base to kind of continue building, then you kind of have to know how to fix it or reverse it back to a version that works. So like play around with it. Don't be a jack of one trade, be a jack of all trades. Shout out to the code head, man.